This video we want to solve the equation t to the 6th power equals t 25 times t to the 4th power. Give your answers as integers or fractions. Most likely, even though the directions don't say this, if you don't reduce your fraction, it might be marked wrong. So be careful with that. And we want to do it separated by commas. Right, so the first thing you want to do here is we have different powers of t. And what doesn't matter what letter you are using, you might have a different letter than me. If you have different powers of t, that's a good indication we are going to factor it. And remember, the most important thing about factoring is that you have 0 on one side. We want to get everything on one side to have 0 on the other side. Okay. Now, for this one, you see the powers of t. What you never, ever want to do is divide by a variable, meaning we do not want to divide by t to the 4th to get rid of it over here and to move it over there. So this is a very important thing, is to never divide by a variable. And this is very important. If we want to get 0 on one side, just imagine if this was just 25, we would subtract the 25 to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to subtract the entire 25t to the 4th to the other side. So we got, I'll go ahead and rewrite it so that way we can keep it all in line. We got t to the 6th equals 25t to the 4th. Then we subtract the 25t to the 4th from each side. And that's going to give us 0 on the right, like we talked about. And on the left, the different powers of t means they're not like terms. I like to keep the biggest power in front, so we're going to have t to the 6th minus 25t to the 4th. All right, now when it comes to factoring this one, this is a bit different than maybe a lot of them, in that we don't have anything without a t in it. So the one thing we want to look out for here is factor out the greatest common factor, which is going to be t to the 4th. We have t to the 6th and t to the 4th here. The smaller of the two powers is what we can factor out. So we're going to take a t to the 4th out. Remember the way the exponent rules and everything work. This is like taking 4 t's out, and we have 6 of them here, so there's still 2 left inside. T squared minus, we still have that 25, and we took all 4 of the t's here out, so we just got minus 25. If you ever want to check yourself on this, imagine distributing it back through. What would you get? Well, you get t to the 6th because you'd add the powers, and the t to the 4th would all check out. Right. Now, depending on what you see to do first, it's up to you what you do next. One other thing is you can kind of think about, we factored this a little bit, so we can set each factor to 0. We got the t to the 4th in front equals 0. And then we also have the inside t squared minus 25 equals 0. We want to solve each of these. Now, normally when we factor, there's only t's left. There's not powers of t. Now, one thing that's nice about this one on the left is that if any power of t equals 0, then t equals 0. Right, so just because that has this power could be anything too. It could be a fraction. But if you have t to any power and it equals 0, then it's going to be that t equals 0. I guess I should add in that has to be a positive power. Right, but you won't see negative powers in this class when we do something like that. Right, so that's one of our answers, which I'll go ahead and box in. Now the other thing we want to solve over here, t squared minus 25 equals 0. There are two ways to do this. One is that it's a difference of squares. But the reason I'm not going to do that is that might not always be true. This number, if this was not a perfect square, like 24, then we would have to do it this other way. And the idea here is we only have t in one spot. And it might be t squared, it could be t to the 8th power, t to any power. If you only have t in one spot, we first want to get it by itself. So now we're going to add the 25 over to the other side. So we got t squared equals 25. And then we want to get rid of the power. And this is something you should have learned before. If you want to get rid of powers on variables, you do the radical. This time it's the powers 2, so if we want to get 2, we do the square root. So visually, I'm going to rewrite it. We got t squared equals 25. We do the square root of each side. And one thing, you should have learned this, like I said before, hopefully this is a reminder, when you do the square root, when you do any even root, square root is 2, you must plus or minus. All right, if we had like cubed here, then it wouldn't matter. We would only do the plus, but we wouldn't write it. All right, so the square root kills off the exponent. We have t equals plus or minus, and the square root of 25 is 5. Right. So really we are done here, but just to acknowledge what this is saying, this is giving us two answers for t. We've got 5 and negative 5. Now for our final answer, don't forget we also had 0 over here. So our final answer is 0, 5, and negative 5.